such a loser. You know, we're going to have a movie night next week. It's going to be the Peanuts movie.
I'm down.
No.
I've never seen it. You know why? Because Pikey's not seen it.
But we
No, we should have a movie
It's
night.
still my favorite, though.
But we have to bring peanuts.
Really, John?
Or it won't make
No,
sense.
John, we should have a movie
Have you met
night.
Kennedy?
It's called peanuts.
John, we should watch the movie.
Have you met Kennedy?
Kennedy's my favorite too.
John, we should have a movie night next week.
I mean, really.
Our Joshua John, my dad.
I've never made her believe. Obviously, I like her.
Jasmine came out.
Alright!
I think that would make us closer.
Actually, you're not wrong though. I was originally going to be
It's a tear. Alright, so tonight, I got about 6 different things in mind that I kind of want to talk to you guys about. I don't know which one we'll get to, if we'll get through any of them, but we will start with at least one question from back there. Okay? Okay, because Harrison has a question for us, and he's really excited about it. So, I don't know what that means, but what you got?
Alright, so why in the Catholic faith is Jesus still on the cross, but in any other church is not? So I've always been told it's because the Catholics view him dying as the most important part.
That, in an odd way, ties into one of the things I was thinking about today. So that's pretty
I can read your mind, John.
What's you thinking of right now?
Alright, so why do the Catholics keep Jesus on the cross? Anybody got an answer to that? Anybody? Anybody? Honestly, I don't have an answer for it either. Thanks.
Thanks.
I don't know everything.
But
What can
Kyle,
I say? I know, right? There were that 3 things.
Clearly you don't know.
I don't know, y'all. Vacation last week. Work's been crazy this week. My brain's kind of like numb right now. But,
what's
dude,
Kyle to say about it?
at least I know who Lucy is. Alright? I don't want to hear it. So, but I've heard a lot of people ask that question. I've never been given an answer that I really like, agree with, appreciate, or can even respect, to be perfectly honest with you. And on top of that, to further critique, why is he so clean? I mean, look at Jesus on the cross in any church where you see a picture of Jesus on the cross. He's got like 4 little pretty drops of blood around his head, and this perfect red gash with 1 little drop of blood right there, and 1 little drop of blood from every nail. Get real. He was gruesomely murdered and beaten within an inch of his life. He was not pretty when he was on that cross, y'all. It was not a good sight. He was beaten beyond recognition. Somewhere, I think in Isaiah, it even hints that like his beard was ripped out. Okay? So I'm like,
It's like your beer was ripped out.
there is nothing about that entire crucifixion process. For one, he was up there in a loincloth and he carried a cross up there, which was a rough cut piece of timber. That alone, I mean, would have bruised, scratched, and cut his shoulder. But he'd already been scourged, and we've seen what those can do. So, keep that in mind, y'all. That really makes, I know it's a little thing, and I have all my little things against all these different religions and churches and all that, but it's like, if I walk into a church and the first thing I see is this pretty, clean Jesus on a cross, I'm like,
Walking out.
you don't even know what a crucifixion was like. No, it's not politically correct to walk in and see a blood and beaten pulp of a body. But that's what Christianity is all about. Without that bloody beaten pulp of a body, none of us have forgiveness of sins. Therefore, why are we going to church? Right? Why are we praising God if we don't have forgiveness of sins? Why are we praising God if He doesn't love us like Luke was talking about? I mean, if it was that easy, anybody could have done it. The 2 thieves, sure, fine, they can be clean. I don't care, Scripture doesn't say. But Jesus needs to look like a chunk of hamburger just barely draping on a pile
Like
of
that
bones.
ham you
Y'all, I
demolished.
mean, it would have been gross. I know that's gross to think about, but it's accurate. Okay, so if my first impression of your church is an inaccuracy, I have a hard time believing anything else happened. Okay? Just about. Hamburger in a loincloth with some thorns on the top of it, that would be more accurate. I'd be more okay with that than a picture of a Jesus that's not beaten, bloody, bruised, any of that. I mean, even the soldier mocked him, struck him, punched him, and spit on him. Okay?
Or you could put a hamster
So
in
at
there.
a minimum, they said that they struck him and said, prophesy, which one of us hit you? You think they were cute little love taps that didn't leave a mark? At a minimum, he would have had a couple black eyes, fat lip, at a minimum. Okay? So, completely different sidebar tyrant, but I don't know why they leave Jesus on the cross. I don't like it though, obviously. So, who else has a question? Anybody? Yeah, Kyle.
Alright. So this is going to be one of the most outlandish questions I've ever asked.
Nice.
What are your thoughts on the theory that we exist in a simulated universe? And is it possible for
I love this one.
theology?
This is all the sense.
We exist in a simulated universe?
This is
What do you
like
think? What's
Stephen
the
Hawking.
possibility?
Are you talking like
Alien.
we're all figments of some imagination? Or like Matrix where...
I'm talking like Matrix. Like,
Matrix, okay.
Agent Smith.
You guys, anybody not familiar with the Matrix? Okay, the concept behind the Matrix, great movie from the late 90s, if you're in the late 90s action, adventure, sci-fi, or Keanu Reeves. I mean, who's not? But human beings are basically just in these gel cells, and they have a feeding tube in them and a connection to their brain, and everything that we go through is part of a virtual reality computer program. And robots are actually harvesting humans just for our energy production, because they actually say to turn human beings into this, and he holds up a C or D cell battery. Okay, so decent enough flick, great for pop culture if you want to, all that goodness. Back to the question though, do I think it's possible with our theology, with scripture? Obviously you've thought about it, so you go first while I think.
Interesting you say that, John. So
All
I
right.
really haven't put that much thought into it.
Okay.
My first impressions are probably not. But I also cannot think of an exact point in scripture where it would, I guess creation would be the place to go for that. I don't know. It's such a big question that can be taken in a lot of different ways. That I really cannot give a clear answer on just about any aspect of it.
Anybody else got a thought on that? Anybody think it's, yeah?
So like, if we're in a simulation, when our life ends, wouldn't it just restart over again?
It could.
Get the game over screen.
That's what I'm like,
Once you bring scripture into it, I'll start believing it.
I can't think of any scriptural reference that talks about whether or not virtual reality or anything is even a possibility, because it didn't exist when scripture was written, so it wouldn't. The closest thing I can think of is a reference to us being enslaved, which is absolutely possible. My natural instinct, just like anybody, to say is, of course we're not in a computer program. I would know. No, we wouldn't. Not if it was a good program, right? And concept of the Matrix was that they inserted and created the program to represent humanity at its pivotal, best, highest moment, or else it would become too self-aware. When it was at its peak, it was oblivious to everything around it. So that's why they picked, naturally at the time, the late 90s. You could argue in a lot of ways that was the best. I'd go back to the 50s, and I'm just thinking out loud right now. I'm going to go with... I want to say no, but in all reality, with what I can see technology already capable of, I don't think we'd ever know. Do I think scripture answers it? No. But then you have to raise the question, if we are inside a computer program, Miracles are very easily explained because it's just code. But at that point, can any of us truly be saved? Because then we can only believe what our programming allows us to believe.
Just save the backup file.
Write a script, right? So, if that was the case, God, assuming he's true, not just a line of code in a program, would always be, as I believe he is, always trying to reach us where we are, even if we are enslaved in our own mind. Therefore, there would be people, I think, like in the Matrix, that find a way that are freed from the program and freeing others. There's a lot of parallels from the Matrix to Christianity. There really are. I mean, and a lot of people, a lot of the theories even came out that, Neo was the one. Trinity was the name of one of the characters. A lot of people tried to tie it together. I don't think it worked. I don't think it was written that way. But maybe just enough to get the Christians to go spend money at the movie theater. I don't know. But undecided. I don't think Scripture can't talk about it because they didn't have the technology. So it's a tough one. But if it's possible, God would find a way to reach us. I mean, he just would. He wouldn't just give up and go, oh, wait, I can't write code. Oh, man, that's in Java. I only do C++. That's not God, right? So he would find a way to get through to us, even if we weren't. So, interesting thought, though. Anybody else got a question? Yo.
Why do we have one God while the Greeks and the Romans had multiple?
They didn't.
Well, why do they worship more than...
Fake news. Wrong. I'm with Harrison on this one. They were completely fake, fabricated, false gods. They didn't have more than one God. They made up more than one God.
Yeah.
We didn't make up God. He made us. We have no reason to have more than one because he is everything.
Like, why do they believe that only one individual God could do one individual thing?
Because I would say, and this is just pure speculation on my point, I would say if I was going to create a false set of hope, I would create as many avenues to get it right as possible. And if I don't like what this one's doing, then I can go appease to that one and he can give me what I want. If I don't like what that one does, then I can play this one against that one and manipulate them to get what I want, which there's all kinds of stories of that happening during those times. And all of the mythology involves humans trying to play the gods back and forth, right?
Yeah. I think it was kind of occurred to me, I feel like maybe they were also over time fabricated because there's something to blame others the world on. Because if you think about it, all like the monsters and stuff happened because Zeus couldn't keep it in his pants. Seriously, I mean, all those crazy monsters out there, I mean, they could blame, natural disasters, they could blame, their own wickedness on the monsters if they wanted to.
I mean, think about it. There's a storm on the sea. Oh, you've angered Poseidon. I haven't angered Poseidon. Well, who's the god of the weather? Then you've angered him. Well, I haven't angered him. Well, maybe he's mad at Poseidon, so we're just caught in the middle. It takes all responsibility off of us. So, I mean, and it's no different. It's just self-fabricated ways to make yourself happy. We don't call them gods anymore, but we certainly make our own ways to be happy. It's no difference. False hope. Anybody else thoughts on that? Yo.
I know back in like historical times, a lot of countries and people would decide on one god to worship, and then if, say, they were going to war with another country and lose, they would just adopt that country's god because they would just infer that that god was stronger than theirs. But they always would typically believe that both gods were real. So, I mean, it makes sense that maybe a few of them would have just risen to the top and just remained in some central government. Yeah, it was mainly just a popularity contest, really. It's like, who can I get the most out of back in those days?
Well, look at it from a biblical point of view. Jesus gets you to heaven, everything else doesn't. Satan's main goal is to keep you out of the Jesus camp. If you're not in the Jesus camp, does he care what camp you're in?
No.
No. He doesn't care if you worship Zeus or Poseidon or Ares or Hermes or Dionysus, who's mentioned in Scripture, or Baal or Moroni or the Pope or yourself or technology or money or power or prestige. He doesn't care. You don't worship Jesus, you're going to hell. Done. So,
They're going along with what Kyle said. If the Assyrian Empire invaded the Babylonian Empire, they would take over their religion.
and look in the Old Testament, there's all types of stories where a pagan king with a pagan god would enforce his rule and his religion and his reign on everyone. And then a couple brave Jews would stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do that. Then God would show up in a mighty way and they'd say, oh, now we'll all worship the God of the Israelites. And then they just get bored again and go somewhere else. I mean, it happens time and time and time. Tower of Babel, but Nebuchadnezzar and, Daniel in the lion den. Both, he did that and the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? There's Samuel and not Samuel, but Elijah and all the prophets of Baal, right? I mean, we see this all through Scripture where Satan doesn't have to get you to believe anything specific. He just gets you to not believe Jesus. And he gets you. So anything you can come up with in your imagination that people will decide to follow, he's okay with. Or he just whispers in their ear until they go a different way. So.
What if, your country is made by an atheist country?
Communism.
People are still.
Wow. I'm talking about Germany.
Okay, do they have Jesus? No, because you said they were atheists. They don't have Jesus, Satan wins. He doesn't care. Atheists, demigods, false gods, 40 gods, 800 gods, universe, power, nothing, everything. He doesn't care. As long as it's not Jesus, you're done. You're lost. I know, shocking. I've simplified it.
As far as understanding an atheist government, the USSR did happen. They were a secular government that invaded countries and secularized them.
I'm bringing up the only atheist country right now is the Czech Republic, mainly.
I'd argue there's a lot of atheists.
The main one.
There's a lot that don't have Jesus. We can agree on that.
I'm not talking about 93% of the population is atheist.
Okay. So it sounds like we got some work to do.
Oh, amen to that.
Okay, let's all go to Czech Republic.
You go to school with people that aren't saved? Start there.
Atheists. Many atheists.
Start there, bro.
That's how I believe you speak.
You ain't got to go to the Czech Republic. Go where you're at. Do what you can with what you got, y'all. I don't have to go find 500 youth groups somewhere. I got one right here. I'm going to tell you all about Jesus. You don't have to go to the Czech Republic. You got classmates right here, right now. You deal with 30, 40, 50 people a day. If they don't know Jesus, that's your mission field. Anybody go to see you at the poll today?
The what?
I was wondering.
Michael was freaking getting it.
Yeah?
Oh, Sadie's not here. Her and Charlotte were singing.
Cool. I was just curious. All right. Anybody else got a question? Yo.
It's actually about that. So our schools actually, we meaning the FCA, which is the Christian group of people. So we talked to the administration and stuff, and they're gonna allow us to do the meeting at the pool every other Wednesday.
That's awesome.
That's tough.
So
That's really
now
cool.
instead of just doing it once a year, we're gonna do it every other Wednesday.
That's
Good for
what's
you.
up.
Good for you.
That's smash, bro.
Cool.
That's what's up.
That's smash.
All right. Remind us about that. Okay? Remind everybody about that. Put it on the board out there. All right. Anybody else got a question, or do you want to hear one of my thoughts?
Your thoughts.
That's my question.
Wow. All right.
That's attractive, right?
So
It's not really.
last week we were in Gulf Shores. Went to the beach, went to the ocean, loved it. It was awesome. Okay? And as I'm standing there, I have this thought. I'm looking at what I can see on the beach. Now, from where I was standing, I could see, I don't know how many miles out, I don't know. I don't know how far, we'll say a mile in each direction. I'm standing there. There's sand under my feet. There's little white crabs that crawl all over the beach at night, anywhere from as small as a pencil eraser to someone can get about that big around that we saw, and them suckers hurt when they pinch you, okay? There's these little white crabs, there's these little bugs, there's all these little seashell creatures that go in there, okay? If we walked up on a jellyfish, anybody ever touched a jellyfish?
Yeah.
Are they weird?
Yeah.
I don't even know how to, it kind of like feels like cartilage,
You can paint it.
but they're completely clear.
Dude, those boys
Okay.
can get you.
Yeah, they can zap the crap out of you, okay? There's that. We saw fish. We saw dolphins. We saw sharks. We saw bird life galore,
Turtles.
okay? Didn't see any turtles. Did see some crabs.
Whales.
Various kinds of quail, or quail, because you said
Whale.
whale, and I was trying to say crab. All right. Now, what else do I know is in the ocean?
Sharks.
Whales.
Sharks, whales, sand dollars, coral,
Or-
fish.
Orcas.
Sand dollars? You know, it's a little round crustacean, about like they're round and they're real thin, but they look like the imprint of a starfish on them, but then they're just a round disc and it's some kind of living critter. Yeah,
Orcas.
Kraken.
yeah. A what?
The Kraken.
The kraken?
Right.
Not quite. Okay.
Squid.
Google them when you get home. You'll see them. All this different kind of sea life, right? And I'm just looking at this, to use Pikey's words, God was romancing me out there. Because every night I'd sit there in the dark and I'd listen to the waves.
God was wooing you.
Woo.
Okay, maybe wooing is what he said, but same difference, right? Alright, and the moon was up there, and I'd see the reflection of the moon on the water. I'd hear the waves, there'd be a breeze, and I'd just look up there and I'm just like, this is such a big area. Like, this piece of the world is just ginormous to me. Both in the physical sense, but also in like the emotional, spiritual, right? Because it was very easy to think, if I got just as far as I could see straight out, no one would know I existed. And I wouldn't even be a fraction of the way, obviously a fraction, but I'd be such a small, minuscule fraction of the way through the Gulf of Mexico that it's not even worth considering, right? What's 1 mile into the Gulf of Mexico?
Not Mexico.
Right? So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and I'm looking at these little critters all around me, and I'm looking at the stars, and I'm looking at the moon, and I'm thinking about all this stuff that I've seen. And I just go,
Peace.
how did this come from one cell? And I thought about this, because you guys know me, I'm practical, I think it through, so, okay. That board, right there, where'd it come from?
A tree.
A tree. That's right. Not exactly rocket science, right? Okay? So, how do we know that?
It's wooden.
It's wood, which is a type of material, right? How else do we know that this came from a tree? How can we verify that?
The little
Because
circle
wood
thing.
only comes from trees.
Wood comes from trees.
The little circle thing on the thing.
There's grain that matches trees. We see knots. And more of what I'm going for, we can replicate that. A lot of these are oak. Okay? I can go out, find an oak tree. I can cut it down. I can cut it into planks, and I can make it look like one of these, right? I can reproduce this. Time and time and time again. I can consistently redo that. And I can see it with my own eyes. I can feel it with my hands. I can see it. If I name any number of materials in this room, from the shirt on your back to the shoes on your feet, we can say the exact same thing. We know where they came from because we know how they're made. We can watch them be made. We can replicate the process. Whether it's processing plants into plastic or waste into plastic or recycling into plastic, or the rubber from the plant to make the soles of your shoes, or the cotton from the plants that's woven into your shirt, the dyes that we get from any number of sources, artificial or real, and we make things. The metal, we can drill into the ground and find ore, and we can melt it down, form it, add carbon and make steel, or do this, and we can replicate all these things. We know where little humans come from Because we can replicate this, right? We can watch it happen, and we know what action causes little humans to come forward, and we know this because we've witnessed it time and time and time again. Same thing with all forms of life, right? But then you eventually get back, go through history far enough back, and you have to ask yourself, where was the first one?
How were we first?
So, if you take God out of the equation, how did we get here?
Science.
Aliens. Okay, that is a theory. And I'm not making fun of you at all. It's a big theory out there.
The Big Bang.
Okay? No, it is. Now, people think that aliens came to this planet and planted seeds of life.
Where did those aliens come from?
Where did the aliens come from? Exactly right.
An alternate Earth.
And where did the planet come from?
Rock.
It was here. Yo.
How can you say that aliens were there, but completely dismiss something like a god that created something?
Exactly.
If the aliens were here, they have probably some
it's the
traits.
same. It's the same exact concept. You're just using a different word.
Stephen Hawking, one of the most brilliant minds that ever lived.
And he's now
He
dead.
died, okay?
Wow.
Love for his family. But
Smart enough to live forever.
none of us will be, alright? He completely dismisses God and creation, but believes that an intelligent design from an alien is possible.
That's basically a god.
How?
How?
If
What
aliens-
makes one more believable than the other? One has consequences, one does not.
If aliens were here,
Okay?
they'd have to be
If aliens were around, they obviously don't care what we do because they're not interfering with the way we live our lives. So therefore, we can live our lives any way we want. If God is real, He has interacted in our lives. Therefore, we have to interact with Him. And that's what we don't like. Is he good?
with the alien thing.
What?
Is he good?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, take away aliens. Let's go evolution.
Big Bang.
It all started with a single cell. And then through millions upon billions of years, little bitty changes happened. Now, let's think about this first cell. What was required of this first cell for this theory to work? Had to exist. Where did it come from?
The Big
No one can
Bang.
tell us that.
The Big Bang.
Okay? What else did it need? Huh? The needs for life. What does a single-celled organism need to survive?
More cells.
Depends on the type of organism, right? They all have different needs. Some require wet or atmosphere. Some can live in a dry atmosphere. Some require this. Some require that. Which one are we talking? We don't know.
Moist.
What else did that single-celled organism have to be able to do upon creation or existence?
Multiply.
Multiply, heal, recreate, consume and use energy. All these things happened like that. Life happened without any outside influence. How?
How? How can one cell create human beings and also plants?
And
Like
animals.
how could it make a tree and also make a monkey?
That's right.
Like that doesn't make sense at all because I mean you can't turn a plant with the science that we have now, you can't turn a plant into a human.
That's right.
You can clone.
So it's complete and total bogus.
If you go back to this board right here, you can make some marvelous things out of wood, right? You guys have probably seen some craftsmen or pictures of things made out of wood that are just beautiful. But they all share common characteristics,
Wood.
okay? Whether the grain or this or that or whatever they have characteristics that match them. And no matter what you do to that substance, you do not get this over here, right? No matter what you do to a tree, you have to be able to backtrack that tree's genetic code, DNA, source, material list, bucket of goodies, whatever you want to call it. You have to work that all the way back and find a point where you can say, yes, right here, I can see where that branched off. And with the exact same group of materials, it made both a tree and a great blue whale. I can trace them back. I can come back to a joint point of origin, so to speak. Yeah.
Then
So,
Hang
so
on.
Go ahead.
the cell theory wouldn't make sense because there's animals, there's an animal cell and plants, there's a plant cell. So they had to come from the same
Yeah,
cell,
there's-
split and
There's
change.
eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells.
Eukaryotic.
How does that work?
That guy's in school.
Eukaryotic is plant and animal. Prokaryotic is like bacteria.
The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
And the lysosomes is the garbage.
Alright, guys.
That's all.
My
So-
Sam would be so proud.
So, can you believe in evolution?
9.
You can try.
But you'll fail.
No, you can definitely try.
You can try. Now, if you can't, then what are you left with?
Big Bang.
Big Bang.
But that doesn't explain how the cell got there, does it?
What does the Big Bang explain?
It says that a
It
giant
happened.
explosion and everything was just there.
Apparently we're a
I mean,
collection
it's
of
big
like,
boom boom.
bits and pieces of
Wow. Yes, yeah.
Hey
Wow.
guys, go ahead.
I mean, as far as I understand, the Big Bang is supposed to explain or it suggests that we're all, a byproduct of the universe. Like, I think as some person put it, like, we are, as, the entire ocean crashes into the shore with a single wave, we are the universe understanding itself because we're made of materials of the universe because of the, I don't know, it's something like that, which is totally bogus, but,
Not really.
I don't know. Something like that.
Where did that universe come from?
Right, that's more like it.
First of all, what were the two things that banged together to make
What
that?
collided?
It was, I
Exactly.
forgot what it was like atoms.
Something had to exist.
In order
Already.
to.
The Big Bang Theory is it doesn't work because it's saying that something happened between something,
Billions of years ago.
but it's saying that nothing was there. So it completely just contradicts
So
itself.
something
in
came
that,
out of nothingness.
yeah.
That's not
Which is
possible.
Oh my gosh, dude, that he gets me so mad, dude.
I tried bringing this up to my dad before, and then he ended up bringing it to Christianity, and he was like, well, where did God come from? Like,
It's the
when
next
did
question.
he decide to finally create us? And how much time, came between then? Like, where did he come from? It's like,
If we look back scientifically, science agrees that all of a sudden there was just an explosion of life on this planet.
But
They
it's
can't
not
explain it.
possible.
They cannot explain it. Does not fit evolutionary timetable models. They just see all of a sudden on this one time period, just life was everywhere. Big Bang, the only thing that people can say is that all of a sudden out of nowhere this surge of energy and life came pouring through the universe. I don't know, maybe like an all-powerful God spoke.
I was gonna say,
Or
I've never said the Big Bang wasn't true. I mean, for me, the Big Bang doesn't. Science as it is doesn't explain creationism. It just explains what is
Yes.
on a microscopic level. Sometimes it just explains things, but it doesn't explain how it came to be. So I always thought, well, yeah, maybe there was a Big Bang, but that's the best science can come up with of God saying, "Let there be light." Boom, there's light.
Yeah, if you actually take the English phrase, remove God, and translate it to gibberish, it comes out Big Bang. Okay? Harrison.
So, it says in the beginning, on day one or whatever, God created
light.
the earth. What if the Big Bang was true, but the day is different to God?
Yeah, that's also another thing. God's outside of time and
That,
space.
that God's something
because
different.
it doesn't
Alright.
actually
He
say that
spoke
there's
it.
a 24-hour, or a day and night cycle until a certain day.
Thing is, how long
So
was
it
the
might
day
have
back
been-
then?
No, but there wasn't an actual time span.
Day one.
It does say
But how long was the
Hey
day
guys,
back
let's talk
then?
about this. In the Hebrew, in Genesis 1, the word used for day is yom, which is translated for a set period of time. It can mean literal 24-hour period. It can mean just the days of King David, right? It can be used either way. It is also used for a warming, as in, by implication, sunshine. Okay? But it can be used for days. our clue, and this is me, I'm going to take this to my grave until someone can give me biblical evidence against it. Okay? That's your challenge if you disagree. It says it was evening, then it was morning, and it was the first day. And it says that phrase all 7 days.
You made me read that, so I believe you.
It says, in the beginning, God created, and he did this, and he did this, and he did this, and it was evening, and it was morning, and it was the first day. And then he did this, and he did this, and he did this, and it was evening, and it was morning, and it was the second day. It says that every time. That's where I get the 7 literal days, because of that little phrase right there. Yes, the Hebrew word could mean many things. Where else is it used in Scripture? How is it used? Multiple ways, a lot of times as a literal 24-hour day. When you add in the phrase, it was evening. If you say to somebody, hey, give me a call sometime, and they say, okay, and you go, tonight I'm busy, tomorrow morning I'm free, so give me a call sometime. Do they mean give me a call anytime in your lifetime, or give me a call tomorrow after the morning?
Probably give you a call tomorrow
After the morning. Guys, a really cute girl says, I'm busy tonight, and I'll probably sleep in tomorrow, but give me a call sometime. Are you going to call her tomorrow?
Nope. You sleep or not?
Yeah.
Not at 6 a.m. you're not, but you're going to call her tomorrow, or at least text her, or at least find some cheesy, non-invasive way to contact her so that you don't look too pushy, not too eager, so you still have the impression that you're cool, even though you're not because you're reaching out to a girl and finding over when to call her. But you're going to reach out to her the next day because she said, I'll be doing this and this, then give me a call sometime. She's laying it out there, not looking too needy that she wants you to call her, else she wouldn't be telling you to call her. And you're going to try to play it off. You're going to say, okay, she said she'd sleep in. So she was doing this. She said she'd work till 11. She's going to get home at midnight, maybe do her thing. Maybe she'll sleep till 9 or 10. I'll give her a call right around lunchtime. That way I'm not too needy, but I still got time to ask her out to dinner.
Cool.
Anybody else kind of
Yeah, I get it.
feeling that, right? So when you add those extra parameters, it specifies the time frame. If she just says, oh yeah, nice to meet you, hey, why don't you give me a call sometime? You won't call her the next day. You better not, because then you're too needy. Right, girls?
You're asking the girls.
Some girls are doing it, I don't know. Good thing Ashley wanted me to call. I don't know, I guess. But there's a difference there, right? You guys see that? If someone says, give me a call sometime, I'm doing this and this and these time periods, and they specify parameters, you know specifically when they want you to call them. But if they just say, yeah, get a hold of me sometime. I met the pastor of Harvester Christian Church in Troy the other night. And he's like, hey man, I'm in Troy. Like, I'd love to have lunch with you. I work these hours. We should do lunch sometime. Well, he told me the days he's in office, so sometime is probably going to be on one of those 3 days that he's in office, right? All at Harvester Christian Church, yeah. Sweet. Pastor Gus, really nice guy. Okay. But it's all irrelevant. I'm just kind of randomly trying to prove a point here that the more information you get, the more specific you can get. So in Genesis, when it says it was evening and it was morning and it was a day, that tells me it was a literal time period. I also believe in God having the ability to create all that he created in a literal day. Now, yes, a day is as 1,000 years and 1,000 years is as a day, but why did God say that it was evening and it was morning and it was a day? Well, science can't prove that. I don't care what science can't prove. Science can't prove a lot of things, and science can't prove whether the world is flat or round in some people's opinion,
Okay.
right?
Question.
We
Can
can't
we
prove
discuss that now?
No, we're not going to discuss that right now. But what we cannot answer, there's a couple questions we cannot answer. Where did God come from?
No way. He's always been there.
It just says he was there, right? We have to take a step of faith on that one. I think it's a smaller step of faith than every other theory out there. Because if you believe God was there, everything else falls into place. If you don't believe God was there, you still have to answer that very first cell, that very first molecule, that very first universe. Where did it come from? And we're at the exact same spot. We have separate points of origin, but we both have a point of origin that we cannot explain. Okay? What we also do not know is how long was God there, hovering over this waters before he created the earth? We don't know that. And I can't tell you, there's different theories, but I can't tell you at what point during the entire creation process Satan fell from heaven. We don't see it in this Genesis account, we just see that he did it. Okay? There's a couple different theories we could get into another time if you want to, but when it comes to creation, we all have to take one step and then decide from there. Okay? Anybody else got questions, comments, thoughts on that?
I think we just completely and totally obliterated the whole evolution thing. So I mean,
Well, I would hope.
we could. There should be nothing.
What about the whole planet?
It's completely destroyed.
Okay.
It won't.
No, Kyle's got something.
Your eye was up first.
What do you think of the theories that were part of a human zoo that the aliens created?
Where'd the aliens come from?
So we're gonna
Back to
Aliens
square one, I
probably
believe.
believe in God.
And personally, God reveals himself through creation. Bible says that, I believe that, I feel his presence more in nature than anywhere else.
Yeah.
If there was an alien designer, why wouldn't they reveal themselves? Why do we have no evidence? Why do we have no proof? Well, there's no proof of God. Yes, there is. There's historical accounts that match Scripture. Scripture's been passed on for over 6,000 years and still works. Okay, no other book does, no other writing does, and above all else, Jesus Christ is still changing lives. I live the way I live because of Jesus Christ. I believe he exists. Show me a single person who lives the way they live because they had a radical encounter and change of heart moment with an alien. There are some people out there that believe they have encountered aliens, but they're not going from bad people to good people. They're usually going from good people to cuckoos. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying believing in aliens makes you a cuckoo, but anyone that, okay, if you walk in up to somebody and you're like, wait a minute, you used to be that drug addict, right? They're like, yeah, and you're like, what happened? Like, well, I met Jesus. He changed my life. You go, all right, you're a little weird, but whatever. You meet somebody, you're like, wait a minute, weren't you the starting quarterback? He's like, yeah, and be like, why are you living in a bunker, wrapping yourself in tinfoil? He's like, I was abducted by an alien. And you're like,
Michael's the teacher. I'm joking.
Interesting.
Oh God. Sound
different, right? You're going to view that person totally differently, aren't you? I might ask a few questions. Okay, I'd be very curious, and I may or may not be nice about it, but I'd want to have some conversations, right? You see what I'm saying? There's very few accounts, and none that are agreed upon historically, to my knowledge, of an alien coming to Earth, walking around, revealing himself, revealing his powers, and then some people just choosing not to believe it. It's the opposite. There's a few people that believe this is happening in a little way, but they can't prove it. Okay? There are non-Christian historical accounts of Jesus. No one argues that he existed. It's just whether or not he was God. That's the question.
what about when people say they see like flying UFOs or stuff like that?
UFOs, great. Unidentified flying object doesn't mean it's alien. Do you believe the government has technology we don't have access to?
Yes. Nuclear
Absolutely.
weapons.
Nobody argues that, right? Do you believe the American government is the only government flying aircraft over our land?
No.
No!
Directions
It's stupid
for
if you
Canadians
thought
and
that,
Mexicans.
right? So we see something we can't identify, and the government says, we don't know what that is. By the way, sign the statement saying you're not going to talk about it. Doesn't mean it's an alien. It means they know something you don't, they don't want you to know it. Doesn't mean it's not. I'm not going to say aliens don't exist. I'm not going to say that.
Do you say you're saying they do?
I'm not saying they do.
exist.
I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying I have no evidence for it. Bible, to my opinion, is pretty silent on whether or not there are aliens. One verse in Job, some people try to take. I'm not sold on it. So, whatever. I don't care. It's not something I'm going to argue about. I will argue about Jesus. Okay? You had something bad?
No, I
Okay.
feel like if there were aliens, like, why wouldn't God tell us?
Yeah.
What if aliens were like
Yeah.
evil people who try to
Why
take
would-
over Earth?
Why would there only be like one verse that people maybe,
Mhm.
maybe say that
It's
there's
just like every other topic, you've got dozens of verses.
Yeah.
Context
yeah.
That's right. I agree 100%.
people.
Okay, Kyle, you had a question? Still got it?
This is a bit of devil's advocacy.
I love it. All right.
So I have a 4-pound teacup Yorkie. That's my dog.
I'm sorry.
I'm not.
Okay.
4-pound
teacup Yorkie.
Yeah. Okay. That dog doesn't occur naturally.
Nope.
That dog was selectively bred
Yep.
by multiple dogs. So if you take that same process that selectively bred that dog and apply it to millions of years, you can see drastic changes from small changes.
You could. What's the difference?
What do you ask me?
Your teacup Yorkie was selectively bred by a design by someone who had a plan in mind. And that same process doesn't happen naturally over millions of years. Little weaklings get devoured.
Natural selection.
The weak get weeded out. So, what you're talking about is people intentionally breeding dogs with specific characteristics and then taking those and breeding and those and breeding and those and breeding. And it's a selective mutation, really, is what it is, right? And we've done that with intention to get a certain type of animal, okay? In nature, that doesn't happen, okay? Because let's face it, I don't know, a Labrador, and a Beagle. In nature, in a completely wild scenario, the alpha male is going to win that female. Give me a scenario where a Beagle beats a Lab.
Always.
How often does it happen? Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. Will it continue to happen to get a teacup breed animal? No. I don't think so. Makes sense?
I think I didn't illustrate what I was trying to say clearly enough.
Okay.
So, the process is there for change to happen over time. So, whenever any sort of anomaly occurs that could change an animal, that would make that animal stronger, that animal, if it has an advantage, will rise to the top.
Okay.
It will do the most mating, it will spread itself the most. So naturally speaking, over a very, very, very long period of time, that could become the new standard. So if you combine a string of those changes, you could get an end result that is drastically different from the start.
I think he's saying, like, something my mother once said that she maybe considered. She's like, I feel like maybe evolution for me is just micro-adaptation over a very, very long period of time. Is what she argues. I think that's what Kyle was trying.
Yeah. If the original dog was the same Labrador and one mutated to be bigger, stronger, faster, he would dominate, and eventually that domination would turn into a wolf.
What about
Right?
natural
Okay.
habits?
Now,
It started as a wolf instead.
the problem with that, in my opinion, is that the source code still has to be there, right? For that mutation to happen, it has to mutate something that already exists, right? So you have to be able to backtrack through all the strings of DNA and get to that source code. Single-celled organism never branches to Arctic wolf, blue whale, teacup, Yorkie, and mosquito.
Mosquito.
Also,
It just doesn't.
Also, that single cell organism made, say, like a dog. I mean, I don't know what it would originally be, but say it made a dog. How would it breed itself? Like,
It had to create.
yeah, and a single cell can't create two.
Yeah, a single-celled organism can self-replicate. How did it learn how? Evolution can't tell you. But eventually, there were enough single-celled, self-replicating organisms that they somehow, per evolution, through a series of small changes, became male and female organisms. How?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like how culture in different areas kind of develop. So you have like people from one area develop a culture of different traditions, and then on the other side of the world have completely different traditions. cells are basically developing in the same environment as each other, then they're more than likely to probably replicate, or not replicate, but keep growing into the same exact thing, or nearly the same thing, same species.
So how do we get the changes?
I don't know, I was just
Yeah.
explaining how the replication thing works. But
Something that also kind of debunks the whole, like, starting from a single cell organism and like one tiny piece of life is that the fact that we exist in a really vast, cold, dangerous, and deadly universe. It's like, I think the chances were like 1 in like 100 trillion or something. I don't know, something very large number that was kind of hard to comprehend. And it's like, okay, then if we have one chance in this many, like that's the odds. I don't know how else to explain I can exist outside of the creation.
I mean, the greatest example I've heard that I love is that you take a tornado through a junkyard and it spits out a perfectly functional 747. Okay? Because think about the mathematical equations and processes your brain performs every single day. You don't think about it, but you do with simply walking. You're calculating different things at every time. When you throw a ball, think of the physics that you're calculating, and you don't even realize it. Think of the motor skills. I mean, try to create, go home, if you're kind of mechanically inclined, I want you to go home and simply try to create a mechanical hand.
Luke
That can
Skywalker.
both bend at every joint, have an opposable thumb, move every direction, flex, give, bend, everything.
the top
Try to design
companies
it.
are still trying to do that.
We're trying
Huh?
to
The
design
top,
Luke
like,
Skywalker's
companies are
hand.
trying to do that.
Robotics companies are still trying to do this.
Yeah.
Then, you haven't even included just the mechanics, just the hardware. A structure with a pulley system to bend, just like this, doesn't include nerves, circulation, oxygen saturation, or reproduction. Because the cells in your hand are reproducing all the time, right? Then
No.
add fingernails to it. Why do we have fingernails? I
And
don't
if it's
know.
plastic, then you won't have to have.
Okay? Yeah.
That's dumb.
Something that I don't remember where I read it, but someone was just marveling at the fact that our eye can capture images, see them, and stuff like that. And apparently, our own, even the world's best cameras can't do everything the eye can. Like it doesn't capture. It doesn't even come close, evidently. So it's like kind of. I don't know what you were describing with the whole mechanical hand thing.
Yeah.
I don't think of that.
I mean, and we're going to say that this happened slowly, step by step, over millions of years. Why can't we replicate any of it?
I mean, even so, to go off of what Spike was saying, like a lot of evolutionists, including Darwin himself, just flat out say that like even with billions and trillions of years, we can't make an eye. Like an eye cannot evolve with that much time. You need so much more just for the eye, and that's not the most complex part of your body.
And I guarantee you, our eye is more advanced than other eyes. So even the most simple eye can't work. Okay? Yo.
Also, another thing with the one cell thing. How does that make water, fire, air, earth, elements? How does that make all
Michael.
4 of those elements?
Michael.
Those aren't living things.
Like,
Exactly.
but it doesn't matter. Like how can one cell evolve into something?
A cell is something that's
Right.
How did one atom colliding with
There you go.
another
That's the
atom
proper use.
create the 4 major elements,
Yeah,
create a
cells.
planet, create a
Same
vacuum,
difference.
create a universe, create a star upon billions of stars, upon an ever-growing universe with planets that operates perfectly along the laws of physics for everything to keep from just going off the rails to the edge of the world. How? Guys, I understand. The thought of evolution is easy because it takes away consequences. I get it. There's a lot of things I've done I don't want to answer for you. But I also don't want to walk through life with my hand over my eyes going, everything's as I want it to be. Every now and then you gotta look for some fact. And the simple fact is we cannot replicate a single evolutionary process. We've never been able to. Can't. So by the simple scientific method you learned in 5th grade of come up with a theory, test your theory, replicate your results, evolution is bunked. You come up with a way that makes sense, and if anybody on YouTube sees this and wants to challenge me and talk about it, cool. You come up with the first step of where that first cell came from and how it makes sense, and I'm open to discussing that with anybody at any time. Okay? Yes, sir.
There was just a quote that all this kind of discussion made me think of. It was from a case, I don't remember who, but he apparently said that religion is not, Christianity is for the, I think he said, morally weak and intellectually lazy, and that like we're very close-minded. I'm just sitting here thinking, I think it's more close-minded to believe, to believe in like such a big bang or evolution than it is to believe in a God that you cannot see, cannot taste, touch, hear, or smell. You know, to believe in the unseen world that, you know,
Yeah.
we face spiritual warfare, and it's like, I don't know, to me that seems like you have to be very, very,